Good morning. Welcome to the January 19th, 2022 Bucks County Commissioners agenda, or meeting, I should say. We're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask our Clerk of the Courts, Brian Monroe, to lead us. Okay, thank you. I thank everybody for attending. We have a few new, one new face and one sort of kind of new face. We have Rich Vona here, who is the newly minted Director of Law and Safety. Thank you for being here. Also have a new, brand new Deputy Director for the Neshaminy Manor Nursing Home. John McConnell's in the back there, trying to hide, I think, maybe a little bit. So thank you. Thanks for being here. Welcome. So we're going to begin our meeting with a proclamation. January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and we have Julie Dugarry here, who's co-chair of the Bucks Coalition Against Trafficking. We have a proclamation, which Commissioner Marseglia will read.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to read this. Whereas human trafficking is a borderless crime against individuals that violate the most basic human rights and deprives victims of every shred of personal freedom. And whereas human trafficking occurs when a person is recruited, harbored, obtained, or exported through force, fraud, or coercion for the purpose of sexual or labor exploitation, involuntary servitude, or other types of mental and physical abuse. And whereas human traffickers target impoverished and marginalized children, women, and men, isolating them from society and supportive networks and exploiting them for personal and monetary gain. And whereas human trafficking is a billion-dollar criminal industry that denies freedom to 24.9 million people around the world. And whereas the UN estimates that more people are now harmed by human trafficking worldwide than have been at any other point in human history, with women and girls accounting for 75% of the victims. And whereas in 2020, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children reported that of the 26,500 runaway children reported missing, 1 in 6 were likely sex trafficking victims. So now, therefore, do we, the Bucks County Board of Commissioners, hereby proclaim January 2022 as Human Trafficking Awareness Month throughout the County of Bucks. And in so doing, we offer our support to the Bucks County Coalition Against Human Trafficking, a project of the Network of Victim Assistance, NOVA, and its mission to eradicate human trafficking within our communities and enhance human dignity for all. We wish the coalition continued success and in this endeavor on the occasion of its 9th anniversary.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Dugarry, I believe, is here. And when you are at the podium, if you want to take your mask off, you're free to do that. You're more than 6 feet away from people, if you're comfortable with that.
Thank you this morning, Commissioners, for introducing this resolution. Is that better? Folks hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm Julie Dugarry. I'm the co-chair of the Coalition Against Trafficking, the Bucks Coalition. My co-chair, Karen Kutzner, is not able to join us this morning, but she sends her regards. I want to thank you again for helping to raise awareness about this crime of human trafficking by issuing this proclamation. Since BCAT was established in 2013, we've been making steady progress in raising awareness of human trafficking and continuing to improve the community response and support services for survivors of human trafficking who live among us. I want to highlight some of the ways that BCAT partners have worked together in 2021 to reduce human trafficking in our county and to ensure that services to support survivors are robust and trauma-informed. While we once again dealt with the challenges of the pandemic, BCAT stayed connected with the community by offering a number of programs on Zoom. We hosted 3 community meetings, providing expert speakers who addressed topics such as how to talk about child sex trafficking. We also hosted a webinar on increasing cultural competency to understand and support victims of commercial sex trafficking in illicit massage businesses. We ended in November with a panel of local experts who shared information about shelter and support services for human trafficking survivors in Bucks County. This panel highlighted new services provided by Haven House at the YWCA, which welcomed its first shelter resident in December of 2021. We are grateful for the support of the commissioners and the Bucks County Housing Department to provide secure space for this wonderful project. The Well continues to expand their housing and support services, and there's continuing collaboration between nonprofits and county departments to provide a continuum of support for survivors. BCAT Partners also provided 20 awareness programs to community, educational, and professional groups, including students at Bucks County Community College campuses, foster parents network, mental health and recovery providers, and nursing students at Jefferson Health. We're also grateful to the Congregation Brotherhood of Israel and the Newtown Ministerium, who hosted a Human Trafficking 101 for the community. The County District Attorney's Office and several police departments worked with Nova's Human Trafficking Advocate to coordinate services for victims, as did the county's Children and Youth Agency. In 2021, we also heard the stories of victims and survivors of trafficking. The tragic homicides in the mass shooting in Atlanta led us to examine the illicit massage industry. We know this industry is present here in Bucks County, and we sought expert survivor leader Chandra Wawaruntu and shelter advocate Annalise Gibbs to share their insights on how to support victims who may be from Asian and Pacific Island backgrounds in a more trauma and culturally informed way. We also returned to reports from the Polaris Project and the Hayrick Research Group. Both groups have tracked strategies to use local ordinances to disrupt massage parlor industry and to help reduce commercial sexual exploitation and debt bondage of victims. Hayrick reported a count of at least 11,000 illicit massage businesses in the U.S. as of June 2021, with a revenue of approximately $3.5 billion. We are grateful that the law department has explored this strategy and that the commissioners are considering ordinances as a way to interrupt illicit massage businesses in our community. This can be one of many coordinated strategies, in addition to funding for training of law enforcement partners, targeted investigations of buyers, and continuing to build support services for survivors. All good tools in the anti-trafficking efforts here in our county. Many of us also followed the Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell cases. Our hearts go out to the survivors who as young girls were victimized by Epstein, Maxwell, and others, and who struggled when it seemed that the charges against Epstein would not move forward. We applaud the work of Miami Herald journalist Julie Brown, a Bucks County transplant, who tirelessly pursued this story. It is remarkable that some justice was served with the conviction of Maxwell, but the case highlights the vulnerability of our youth and the need for education and awareness about how traffickers target and groom their victims. As a project of NOVA, BCAT has a tremendous resource in the NOVA Education Department. With the additional support of newly hired BCAT organizer Elise Huckstra, we hope to engage with educators, parents, and youth to bring awareness programs to our local schools. Eradicating human trafficking is just one of the challenges our community is facing, but we can all help to make the change. During this month of human trafficking awareness, we invite the community to learn about the services and support that BCAT provides through our partners. We ask folks to attend the Calm Waters Coffee Roasters, which is hosting an art display created by survivors, or view the virtual gallery on the BCAT Facebook page. We also have the Red Sand installation, and we have some of the materials here today, so if folks want to take part in that, please join us after the meeting. Our display at the Pearl S. Buck Festival of Trees has concluded, but this year our tree was decorated with children's books to highlight storytelling and how we can learn from survivor stories. We created a bookmark with a quote from Confucius as a takeaway, and I leave you with his words. The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. Thank you to everyone in our community who is helping to carry away the small stones. We are moving the mountain that is human trafficking. Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
So thank you. Yeah, I know you have, I think, quite a few
We
people
have some
here.
partners here,
Yes, absolutely.
From A Woman's Place and from NOVA and from The Well. And Bucks County, right, Drug and Alcohol.
Okay.
Want to have them come up?
Yeah. Do you want to, yeah, why don't you come up? We can.
Yeah, if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for all your work.
Yeah, special thank you to the Bucks Coalition Against Trafficking, all the partners, county staff, as well as nonprofits who do this work. Okay. All right. Oh, thank you. Okay. All right, we're going to move to public comments on agenda items. I see Mark Leviton.
Good morning, Commissioners. So I'm one of the owners and operators of Essential Salon and Spa, which has locations in Doylestown and Warrington, PA. My family has been in the business for 50 years, and I have strong relations with others in the industry in this county. I've reviewed today's proposed ordinance and would like to give a strong endorsement for it. The proposed rules and regulations are common sense industry practices that our responsible massage business should embrace. Hand washing, cleaning linens, general professionalism. These are all standards that our business is proud to not only meet, but exceed as we prove safe and effective massage therapy for our clients. And I applaud the larger goals of the law, which gives a seal of approval to legitimate businesses while stopping human traffickers who want to set up shop in Bucks County. No legitimate massage parlor needs to be open at 3 a.m. or take cash payments in a therapy room. I see the law gives establishments almost a year of notice, which is plenty of time for a business to get things in order for inspection. Thank you for your commitment to fighting human trafficking and for taking an approach that is smart, responsible, and also good for business. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to do my best to read this one. Ed, is it McKenzie, Buckingham? Is that right?
Ed Mackhouse.
Okay. You're speaking on agenda items, is it 5 and 15?
Yes, I'm speaking about agenda items number 5 and 15. The election contract. This is, first I'm from Buckingham. My background is physics. I've done all the master's in physics. I've done all the coursework for the PhD in physics. I've done significant scientific discoveries, but I'm retired. But I've had significant experience on value engineering, reliability, and safety analysis. The election contract, what does this cover? What is the responsibility of this contract? Is this going to reassure the people that this country is still democratic and has fair and honest elections? 1 million people on January 6th came peacefully, unarmed, to D.C. to protest and to question the validity of the election, particularly involves mail-in ballots. What does this contract go? Is this from Venezuela? Who did this software? I'd like to know more details of it. Is there equal access to data? We're having a primary that's coming up soon. There's, especially in the Republican primary, there are millionaires. There's a lot of people competing for the Senate. It's a very internationally, people are watching this. And we need to see that there's equal access to Republicans, Democrats, and the media for the election. We'd like to know what this software does and how it's going to reassure the American public. On the item 15, the legal contract, what does it cover? Does it deal with the mental health and responsibilities? What responsibilities are shown here? What's the hourly cost? Liabilities of Bucks counties. There's individual liabilities of commissioners. If you knowingly violate the Constitution and carry out things against the rights of people, you can be personally held liable. I'd like to know if this legal contract is protecting you and dealing with you properly. Ordering masks is a medical procedure. Health Department supports guidance from the hospital saying we got to have masking and stuff. The Doylestown Hospital fired their medical heart surgeon, and they require their employees to have healthy employees to have survived without the vaccines and everything requiring them vaccines. What is the scientific data? COVID deaths account for barely 1.2% of all deaths in the under 25 age groups. Age 15 to 24 saw 33 additional deaths per 100,000 compared 2019 to 2020, a 23% increase. I haven't done all the calculations, but assuming there was 100,000 students in this age group, that would be 23 deaths. Roughly 23 additional deaths from suicides, mental health issues relating from the masking policies designed the drug manufacturers have immunity from prosecution. You do not, because a medical doctor doesn't impose that you have to have a surgery. You get the consent of a person. You didn't get the consent of all these students you're forcing to wear masks. And so if 23 die because of the mental issues that they suffer, I think things have improved, and some of the schools are optional, but where you require the masking, you are subjecting yourself to liability. The Constitutional Law Group gives free legal advice and help to people who could sue you for every dollar you have if you violate the Constitution and impose masking requirements, other requirements that are not legal and are not agreeing with the scientific data, actual experimental data. You could say, well, it's possibility people could get sick from the mask, you're not wearing a mask. It's possibility that a meteorite can come down and strike us dead. But the scientific data shows overwhelmingly that COVID suicides are more, from these sort of mitigation procedures, are more significant, probably about 23, probably with our school district, maybe 10 on the average. So masking children is tragic, unscientific, and damaging, and not proven by the science.
Okay, Mr. McKenzie, thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Andy Warren?
Thank you.
Speaking on items 10 and 12, I think, Mr. Warren?
Thank you. 10 and 12 is what I'd written down. I also want to commend the board for your proclamation today. As I have said many times from here, that is the issue that is right before us, and I commend you all for taking the easy part of providing a proclamation. Now I again implore you to take the difficult part, the leadership part. Suggest to the State Association of County Commissioners that the state commissioners write and take action about America's southern border, where so much of the human trafficking is happening right now. I know you're sincere about it. Act on it. Item 10. This is for 4 months, as I read it, $173,000. That comes out to about $43,800 a month for office space. Don't we have within the county's property office space that could be used for this without spending $143,000 in 4 months? Item 12, A, B, C, E, and F. Do I understand this, that we as a county are now asking people to come work for us and we're enticing them with a sign-on bonus? I recall when people were knocking on the doors to get to work for the county. Why is it that we need to offer sign-on bonuses in this day and age? And what is the amount of the sign-on bonus? Thank you.
Okay. Mike Kiziak?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, other commissioners. I'm here today to thank the board and to offer my support for their consideration of a county ordinance addressing human trafficking at illegal massage parlors. I am the chairperson of the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors. Our township, like many others in this county, have been affected by illegal massage and prostitution establishments. Over the past few years, our county and our community has seen an increase in the number of these illegal establishments. Just in the past year, our township police department, in coordination with the district attorney's office and other victim advocacy organizations, shut down 2 of these businesses in Middletown Township. In October of 2021, our township enacted a local massage parlor ordinance. And I commend the Board of Commissioners for considering an ordinance that would address this at the county level. These businesses, these massage parlors, are often deeply involved in human trafficking, as you know, child abuse, and other criminal activity. These criminal enterprises directly involve and affect the safety of women and children, and many of the women and children working in these places are doing so against their will. It has been our belief, formed through experience, that these businesses target communities where they feel they can fly under the radar, where they feel they can get away with it. And therefore, we believe ordinances like the one passed in our township and like the one that the county is considering absolutely act as a deterrent. And so our experience and our belief is that having these ordinances in place will deter these organizations from opening in our communities. The other thing that these ordinances do is they give law enforcement teeth. With the organizations, the businesses that we shut down in Middletown, it took literally hundreds of man-hours to investigate and shut them down. With an ordinance like this, it gives law enforcement the enforcement power that they need to quickly and effectively shut these businesses down if they do slip through the cracks. Since we have passed our ordinance this past fall, we've seen at least 2 suspect establishments be prevented from opening in our township. And on the permitting end, we've been very effective working with both our police department and our building and zoning department in permitting and licensing legitimate businesses and performing inspections so that legitimate massage businesses can operate in our community, but the illegal businesses that are promoting human trafficking cannot. And so I want to express my, my support to the county for considering this. I believe wholeheartedly that this is a local level that needs to be addressed at the local level by local law enforcement. And so I would encourage other municipalities to consider enacting ordinances similar to the one that our community has passed. But I commend the commissioners in recognizing that this is not just a local level, it is a countywide level, and it needs to be addressed. And while the local ordinances are important, they can't do everything, and there are gaps. And so I would express my support for the county commissioners considering this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, we had a couple questions about some of the agenda items, so I'm going to go to some of our staff here. First question about item 5, 2 contracts regarding Board of Elections. Election IQ LLC is the company that the county has used for a number of years now, which essentially handles the website when it comes to reporting. It also helps our staff here do campaign finance tracking, asset management, poll worker management in terms of logging hours for poll workers so they can get paid. It's a pretty just standard, this is just a renewal of that contract. This is not something new. NPC Incorporated is the company the county used last year to handle all its printing and mailing. We're going to be talking a little bit later about a mailing that's going to go out, so I'll hold off on that. But again, a company we used last year successfully, in terms of handling printing ballots, mailing them out, as well as other election, Board of Election materials that get mailed out. In terms of the general services, item 10, question about the rent for PA Career Link. Ms. McKevitt, do you want to touch on that? Or, Oh, Mr. Spencer, go ahead, sorry.
I'd be happy to speak on that, Commissioner. The lease with Gila Properties, the extension essentially, is a twofold. This lease used to be held by the PA Career Link, which was a nonprofit board. Last year, that department was brought into the county under workforce development with Billy Barnes and her team. So we had to transition the name on the lease, from Career Link to Bucks County. So part of this is there's 3 months of rent, November, December, and January. That is, we can't pay right now because we don't have a lease between the county and the property owner. So that's 3 of the months, and then this extends the term for an additional 4 months to May. We anticipate you'll see something on the next agenda for a location in Ben Salem that the Career Link will be moving to as some new offices. The Career Link board has looked at in the current location and the new location, and our staff and Billy and her team have been working with the property owner in Ben Salem to look at that new site. So you'll have that for consideration next time, but that will be essentially a 3-year lease. The end goal always with all of this is with a project that we're going to be working on at the Lower Bucks Government Services Center, kind of relocating all that back to creating a new space for Career Link, bringing them back in-house into a county-owned property. But these are kind of short-term solutions to get us to that end goal. So.
Okay, thank you. Question number 12, the human resources, the different side letters we're putting together with some of the unions for the Neshaminy Manor. Mr. Warren's question, obviously, about having to do something, I guess, which might be unprecedented, but obviously the job market is much different than it has been in the past. In terms of finding people who want to do the work, especially work that's difficult in the Neshaminy Manor. We're talking about long hours, evening hours, weekend hours, calling in people when you need to because of staff shortages at different times because of illness or vacations, et cetera. So these are all letters that, yes, we are trying to do what we can to make sure we're providing for the residents of Neshaminy Manor, a nursing home that we own as a county, make sure we can continue to deliver the kind of top quality care that's been there for decades, and making sure we're attracting people and retaining them. There are other private companies that can offer higher wages for, and hours that might not be so strenuous, and so we've lost some staff due to that. And so we're doing what we can, working together with the director of the Neshaminy Manor, as well as our human resources and the staff here to put together some kind of package that we can use to make sure that we're retaining the staff we have and attract new staff. There's a question about item 15 with the amounts. I don't have it off the top of my head, the amounts. Do you?
$3,000.
It's half, I think, is a signing bonus, and then a half after if you stayed there a certain distance of time. 15, Law Department, Mr. Khan.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think the gentleman's question concerned the only contract here is 15A. That is a legal engagement that the county entered into with the law firm of Buchanan, Ingersoll, and Rooney several years ago prior to this administration. That engagement covered a number of areas to represent the county. The item on today's agenda would expand the scope of the law firm's representation of the county to include areas that they're not currently representing the county on, and those specifically relate to our health department. For those who don't know, Bucks County's health department has a breathtaking amount of ground that they cover. Certainly, I think a lot of folks are aware of their response to diseases and obviously COVID, but they, as folks will hear during the presentation on today's ordinance, they are involved in lots of other areas, including inspecting restaurants and public health nuisances. And a lot of that job involves very complex issues of healthcare regulations, of licensing issues, of employment matters. The health department currently has, in addition to support from the law department, has a local attorney who serves as a solicitor, who has been very effective in handling a lot of matters that have come up in a very reactive manner. However, for more complex issues that have been coming up recently, there is a need to get some additional help and depth, which this firm certainly has. And so that is the reason that the proposed agenda item would expand that scope of services to include items which I believe are capped by rates the commissioners previously set at $300 per hour.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to move to the consent agenda. We'll start with approval of the minutes for January 5th, 2022. Any comments or suggestions, corrections for the minutes? If none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the resolutions for the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, would it be appropriate to make a motion to table one of the agenda items at this
Certainly.
time? Okay, I would like to move to table agenda item number 20.
Well, it has to be a second. What those, oh, is he approved as personnel? I think it might be on today's personnel
Okay,
actions.
so we didn't approve it with the,
I don't believe so.
okay, second the table.
Okay, all right, motion made and seconded to table item 20 from the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right then, with the balance of the resolutions under B, 1 through 21, exempting 20, is there a motion to approve those resolutions?
So moved?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, moving to our regular agenda. We've heard a couple of public comments so far on this proposed ordinance regarding the regulation of operation of massage therapy establishments and promoting fair labor practices. A lot of work has gone into this. I'm going to call up two people who have been instrumental in this. From our law department, Ms. Chelsea Jackman, and from our Director of Consumer Protection, Mr. Mike Bannon. Should note that Ms. Jackman is currently with our law department, works with children and youth, but prior to that, she worked in the district attorney's office where she developed an expertise in human trafficking.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you so much for hearing about today's ordinance. So in about the last decade, one of the questions that I was so often asked in dealing with human trafficking was, does it really exist in Bucks County? And it does. This modern day slavery is able to thrive in these massage parlors under the front of a legitimate business, but that's where forced sex work is occurring and unfair labor practices. And this ordinance seeks to root out and deter these illicit operations that would seek to exploit and victimize individuals, again, under this guise of legitimacy. Next slide, please. And the municipalities have recognized this, and they're growing in number in the amount of ordinances that are popping up throughout the county. They have had positive reaction, as you heard from Mr. Kiziak, and each one of the ordinance contemplates county enforcement and county involvement. So it just makes sense for the county to have an ordinance to fill in those gaps, rather than have nearly 50 different municipal ordinances. One county ordinance can set a baseline and create uniformity. It also seeks to leverage the county resources that are available to the county. For instance, using, as Mr. Khan indicated, the Bucks County Health Department in enforcing this. Next slide, please. So we talked about this earlier today, that they are already regulating these spaces, bakeries, bars, taverns. And if you take a look at that list, it's a somewhat comprehensive list, but massage establishments fit seamlessly in there to be a place that could also be regulated. Next slide, please. And the Bucks County Health Department, those are the people, those are the professionals. They're used to establishing and inspecting things like trash, sewer, water, the towels, the linens, making sure hands are being washed, the basic cleanliness that we would see in restaurants or taverns or things like that. But also, the health department is going to be taking on the licensure part of this. That license is going to be issued by the health department. And as Mr. Leviton indicated, it's almost a year. We have until November 15th until this actually becomes something that is set into effect, essentially, that businesses have until then to apply. So they have the time. This isn't being forced on local municipalities, and it's not entirely burdensome to get something done real quick. And then again, there's grace periods for businesses to comply should they need it, and they can go to the health department with the request for those grace periods. So again, it's seeking to legitimize the businesses that are right-thinking and hardworking and doing the right thing, and root out those businesses that are have illicit practices going on. And I'm going to turn it over to Mike as another county resource that's involved in this ordinance.
Good morning, commissioners and viewers and the newly elected officials. The Bucks County Consumer Protection Department, Randy, if I could get you to put a slide up there, is happy to partner with the Law Division and the local municipalities to help improve the situation for human trafficking in Bucks County. We know that there's a lot of really good, legitimate businesses in Bucks County, masseuses that do good work, and we want to encourage that in every way that we can. But this new ordinance will help us in the Consumer Protection Department to enforce the basics, like the gentleman had said earlier today. No massage parlor needs to be opened at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's where the Consumer Protection Department comes in. We have a compliance investigator, a newly created position to deal with fair labor issues. And human trafficking is clearly a fair labor issue. It's a tragic and terrible issue, but our role in there is we have people strategically placed throughout the county that will be able to respond to complaints that residents or customers or whoever it might be would bring to our attention. So this new position will fit right into that. We've put up a new website portal where residents can go, or anybody can go, to report any suspicious activity. Randy, could you slide it for me there? Thank you very much. So what we really want to do is, if people are suspicious of a masseuse parlor in their neighborhood, please go to our website. You can submit the complaint anonymously, and we will kind of investigate and make sure that this information gets into the right hands, or that the new ordinance is being applied by it. So we will certainly do our best to do that. We're thrilled to be part of this in Bucks County. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Next slide, please, Randy. Thank you. So just to talk very briefly about the enforcement of it, the provisions, if any of the provisions are brought before a district judge, they could receive $100 to a $1,000 fine. That's separate from compliance fees, which inspectors will go out and they would be subject to compliance fees should there need to be changes made to become compliant with the ordinance. For particular violations for sexual conduct or indecent exposure, unlawful touching, that could get up to 10 days of jail, and that's completely separate from the criminal aspect. So there's a way for the county to be involved in that component of deterrence and punishment. And then finally, there are certain provisions that are required for one to obtain a permit to get the license. And should somebody have something that is precluding or is stopping them from gaining access to a license, there is the ability to have a hearing to challenge any findings on a licensure application. Next slide, please. So the county ordinance, essentially, it creates uniformity among the municipalities, but throughout the entire county. It sets clear expectations that are consistent with standards in the industry that good, hardworking massage businesses expect. And frankly, this is a method for stakeholders to get involved and to allow the tried and true multidisciplinary approach to eradicating human trafficking. Because when we as a county, we work together as an ordinance, human trafficking will not thrive under our watch. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah. Comments or questions from commissioners?
No, thank you very much for these presentations. I'm sorry, no questions, but thank you for the presentations. It's very helpful.
No? Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it was great to have, in addition to Mr. Kiziak talking about how this has been handled at the local level, there still are limitations as to what a local government can do. The county, through consumer protection and our health department, has the ability to start getting into some of these businesses just to see if something is going on, and then alert law enforcement. This is not, Mr. Bannon's not going to be going around with handcuffs, and nor is any of our health department inspectors going to be doing that either. This is something that is gathering information and then turning it over to people that can do that job, do those investigations, and prosecute people. I think it was important also to have Mr. Leviton here appreciate him coming to talk about this from the perspective of a business owner who is concerned about the reputation that sort of untoward business owners create for legitimate ones like his. That certainly if you are going to, speaking as a former supervisor, and I know Commissioner Marseglia was a supervisor as well, but if somebody wants to come in and say, oh, well, I'm going to open up a massage parlor business in your community, that could raise some flags if you're not really sure what kind of business is it going to be. And so, I think this is something we can do to help the legitimate businesses that are doing things the right way. And I'm happy to have him here to echo that. And I'm curious too. I didn't, maybe if I missed it, I apologize. But are there other counties that have law like this? Are we aware of?
There are, Commissioner, but not in Pennsylvania. So if the board approved this, we would be the first in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Well, I appreciate all the hard work that went into this. If there are no other comments or questions, I think it makes sense to vote on this one individually. And we'll do a roll call. Is there a motion to approve regular agenda item 6A, ordinance number 166?
So moved.
Second.
Second?
Commissioner Harvey?
Yes.
Commissioner Marseglia? Yes. Commissioner DiGirolamo?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you. Again, appreciate all the hard work. Okay, item B is personnel actions. Is there a motion to, any questions on the personnel actions that are before the board today? Is there a motion to approve? Actually, hold on for a second. Just reviewing something here based on the tabling. Yeah, so I'm looking at. So, okay, I don't see it added. All right, okay. All right, is there a motion then to approve the personnel actions that are before the board?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Board appointments, items C, or 6C, I should say. We have before us a couple different board appointments. To the America 250 PA Bucks 5-year term, Mr. John Gadziba and Ms. Teresa Andrutsos. For the Agricultural Land Preservation Board, Mr. David Wolfinger, it's a 5-year term. To the Library Board, Ms. Georgette Helbling, 3-year term. To the Park and Recreation Board, Mr. Theodore Moore, Sr., 5-year term. Is there a motion to approve those 5 appointments?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, other civics, we see contributions made. This is obviously coming on the heels of a couple code blues, which the county has issued over the past few weeks due to cold weather. These are cases when we see the temperature going into the low 20s, concern for people who are homeless. The county enacts its code blue, which puts extra resources at disposal of homeless shelters across the county. And many of the contributions today are going to those agencies or nonprofits that help us. So Advocates for the Homeless and Those in Need, $1,500. The Bridge Animal Clinic, $4,000. Coalition to Shelter and Support the Homeless, $1,500. The Peace Center, $2,500. Quakertown Community Outreach, $2,500. Rolling Harvest Food Rescue, $2,500. Is there a motion to approve the other 6?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Chief Operating Officer?
Thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to make mention that the Bucks County Health Department and our Emergency Services Department are out today at the Sesame Place in Middletown Township distributing rapid tests for COVID-19. There are about, I'm getting updates by the minute, about 1,000 per hour. They will be distributing today in Middletown, and then Warminster Park tomorrow, Calvary Church in Hilltown on Monday the 24th. And the schedule can be found on the county's website. They're going to be operating from 10 to 6. We ordered, I think everyone knows, about 300,000 test kits. So they are being distributed. Folks are coming and getting them. I believe they were there at 6 o'clock this morning, waiting in line. So we thank the health department, the emergency management staff for their efforts in coordinating coordinating this round of test kit distributions. They spent a lot of time figuring out what the traffic patterns would be to make sure that they go in and out pretty quickly. So that is happening right now. And then I'm going to yield some of my time to Gail Humphreys to talk about a mailing that the Board of Elections is going to do. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Margie. When the legislature passed the law providing for mail-in ballot voting in Pennsylvania, they also provided that voters must fill out a mail-in ballot application before we at the Board of Elections may send the ballot out in the mail. The Department of State requires the Board of Elections in February to send a mail-in ballot application to all voters who checked the mail-in ballot permanent voter box on the last time they filled out that application. In Bucks County, that letter is going to be sent within the next couple weeks to 134,000 voters. So if you receive that letter in the mail from us, know it's because you checked the permanent mail-in ballot voter box, and we are required to send you that form. What is useful about filling that form out now is it will be the application that will qualify for your mail-in ballot for both the primary and the general election in the fall. It's important to remember that the primary is for voters who are registered in Pennsylvania with one of the major two political parties. But if you fill that form out now that we're going to send to you in the mail, it will be good for both elections. You won't need to fill the form out again until next year when Bucks County goes forward and sends you that form in the mail again. But it is a confusing part about the new law with mail-in voting. You have to fill out the mail-in ballot application first. This year, when we send the paper application to you, we're also going to include a return envelope. Or you have another option if you don't want to go the paper route. You can go to a website, which is vote.pa.gov/apply mail ballot. And that will take you to the Pennsylvania Department of State, where you can fill out the application online. I also just want to give the information that the last day to apply to vote for the primary, which is on May 17th, the last day to apply is May 10th. So please, if you get this letter from us in the application in the mail, know it is legitimate, it is from the county, and it is for your use of ease to fill it out sooner rather than later, so that we and the folks in the Board of Elections have time to process those applications. And please remember, when you get the ballot from us in the mail, to fill it out and send it back as soon as possible for any concerns we or you may have about the Postal Service.
Okay. Ms. McKevitt, good? Yes, sir. Okay. And the only thing I would add thank you, Ms. Humphrey, for that. The only thing I would add is there's also a QR code on the letter you're going to get. So if you have a smartphone, you're able to just take a picture of that QR code, and it'll take you right to the state site. You can fill out the application online that way, too. So, okay. Solicitor report, Mr. Khan.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll begin by just reporting out the board's standing executive session the day before today's meeting, at which the board met with staff to receive information and discuss personnel matters, as well as receiving updates on pending litigation. And Commissioner, with that, I would like to congratulate the board. As I said, I believe this makes Bucks the first county to enact an ordinance like today's. And if I could just express some thanks. Ms. Jackman's slide showed all of the hands that are involved in dealing with these issues, and that was very much the case in making this ordinance a reality. And I'd like to start, Commissioner, by recognizing the really valuable and helpful input of our health department, starting with Dr. Damsker, Phil Smith, who oversees environmental services, going through the health inspectors, They had really, really insightful information that really guided this ordinance to do exactly what Mr. Kiziak talked about, which is to sort of set a baseline and let all municipalities know what's expected when we think about what are standards about cleanliness and safety and health. I think that the final product that the board just voted on is an extremely responsible and smart law because of those contributions. The same goes to the entire Consumer Protection Weights and Measures Department, especially Mr. Bannon's foresight in identifying these unfair labor practices that the department has been trying to find ways to combat for quite some time, and this is just the latest example of the department's really cutting-edge work in that area. And finally, with the Law Department, of course, Ms. Jackman, who has an incredible record on these issues even before joining our department, and also our first assistant, Amy Fitzpatrick, who's also here, who, going back more than a year, started some of this work, talking to stakeholders, talking to local officials to find out what the concerns were, what the needs were, and what possible ways the county might be able to help if, in fact, it made sense to do something like what you just did today. So thank you to all of you and everyone else who helped with this, and congratulations again, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. I go to public comment now. This is for any item of interest. I'll start with Josh Hogan.
All right, we are almost done. I think we're going to be friends soon. I want to thank Commissioner Marseglia for what you said last time, in particular about Dr. Damsker. Standing up to any political party and saying what you believe, I think that should be commended. We're going to talk about some slander that came along with that. I think Ms. Walker will get to that, but I think that that's a really good start. When I came in December, I basically asked, hey, do you guys stand with Dr. Damsker or not? I believe you've answered that question. I made a couple of charts that I want to go over because even though we're getting close to the end here, we still have a couple of things to go through. So this is a chart that you can find on reopenbucks.com/charts. And what you're looking at is basically comparing mask optional school districts to mask required school districts. And what the chart shows is that using community prevalence from the Bucks County COVID map, the school districts that have been mask required since the Supreme Court decision in early December have actually had more COVID. I got another chart right here. I call this chart, Dr. Damsker was right all along. This is actually the same exact chart, it's just printed on white. And the important thing here is that Dr. Damsker in August, actually earlier than August, throughout the summer, started to set the stage that we don't need to follow the CDC because the CDC is wrong. We don't need to send healthy kids home, they can go to school. Why does this become important? Well, the same districts that right now are mask optional are allowing healthy kids to go to school. It's basically, hey, if you get COVID, if you test positive, stay home for a few days, come back when you're healthy. Close contact, we're not even doing close contact tracing. So at the end of the day, you have a situation now where because of all the stuff that you guys are getting wrong, Commissioner Harvey, you just now told someone right now, don't worry, you can take your mask off, you're 6 feet away from people. The science is now 3 feet. I don't blame you guys for not keeping up. I blame you guys for derailing everything early on and causing 3 to 4 months of chaos in the schools, including all of last week, Morrisville School District was closed because of all this nonsense. If you support Dr. Damsker, help us move back to normal. We won't have the minority school district, 75% minority there in Morrisville, shutting down for a whole week of school. That's my request. Let's just get back to normal and stop it. Thanks.
Andy Warren.
The main character on NCIS TV show has rules for life, a number of them, one of which is there's no such thing as coincidence. With that in mind, I was looking at this year's budget that has just passed. There were 9 row offices in Bucks County. 3 of the row offices received an increase in their budget. 1 was a Republican. Of the 6 row offices whose budgets were cut, 4 were Republican. 44.2% one and 15.7% was the other. To me, such drastic cuts in a row officer's budget indicates a total lack of oversight in the previous year or such two draconian cuts in this year. Are we setting a row office up for failure by the end of the year? I'm asking for, I know I won't get an answer today, but I'm asking seriously, reconsider what you've done in this year. Somewhere along the line, there are no coincidences. 4 Republicans cut. Only 1 Republican department gets a raise. There's something wrong here, and I'm seriously asking for your reconsidering this, or tell me why I've misread. Thank you.
Thank you. Megan Brock?
I wanted to talk today about some of the bullying that's been going on, that's been coming from Commissioner Marseglia. On August 13th, 2021, I sent all 3 of you an email called, the subject was "The Mental Health of Our Children Matters." In the email I said, last year, thousands of children in Bucks County were denied access to an in-person education, which has caused a mental health crisis in our community. When you did not respond to my email, I said some other things too, I talked about some other data, but when you did not respond to my email, I came to the August 18th Commissioners meeting, and I expressed similar concerns. Not only did you fail to address my concerns a second time, so no one had answered my email, you ran out of the room as if I said something that was shocking. Apparently, bringing up the mental health of our children is something that is not allowable by private citizens in Bucks County. I didn't know that. On August 18th, later that day, Commissioner Marseglia, you wrote this to a private citizen. Quote, "I would encourage you to watch the first and second comments from our commissioners meeting today. The anti-maskers were just disgraceful." In quotations, it says about 15 minutes in and about the last 30 minutes, which happens to be when I talked. So I guess you're telling other private citizens that private citizens who come to this meeting and express concerns about children are disgraceful. Interesting. As an elected official, I can't believe that you would be doing this, and it's the definition of bullying to use your office to say things about private citizens. You might even say it's trying to censor my freedom of speech by telling other people that I'm disgraceful because I brought up concerns that are very valid. And as we're seeing go do a Google search of mental health in this country right now for kids. It's bad. Comes from leadership and failed leadership.
Mr. Ed McKenzie?
My name is Ed Mackhouse again. I'd like to compliment the previous speakers and the bullying. I'm at Central Bucks School District. My children and grandchildren are there. And it's brought out the students there, LGBTQ and Jews, were complaining about bullying. The critical race theory, diversity, equity, and inclusion movement is backed by Marxists, and they interpret racism as being white. One parent reported that her child came home and called the parent a racist because they're white. Racism should be defined as being prejudicial, not treating people properly because of racism, not because you're white. So the critical race theory, diversity, equity, and inclusion have been used against Republicans. The Republican Party is actually the more diverse party. We have blacks running, qualified good blacks running for governor, lieutenant governor, and senator. The Democrats can't say the same. So Question is definition of things. Lawyer Joseph McBride defends Victoria White, who was beaten 30 times in D.C., despite being videotaped, came out that she was trying to keep the agitators, from breaking the window and going into the Capitol. This came out in the video, and there's evidence. See lawyer Joseph McBride from New York about defending against the torture of most groups being tortured, attacked from Bucks County, and they're overcharged with things that they were invited to come in to the Capitol.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jamie Walker?
Hi. At the last meeting, Diane Marseglia stated that I hunted down an email address. I wanted to state that I never hunted down an email address. She lied to everyone here. The email address was legally given to me through the county through the right to know process. I wonder if I'm going to receive an apology for you accusing me of something that I didn't do. She also stated, when you continue to lie and lie to people, they get angrier and angrier, and it discredits the people's faith in government. I agree with you. You have literally explained the last 6 months of your role in my Bucks County government. I am asking you three, the highest ranking elected officials, to sit down with me, all of my emails, all of our emails, and we can just go over everything. We can do it in a public forum so everyone can see it. I have nothing to hide, personally. The latest damage created by the path of lies that you guys have taken was an article written by Chris Ullery from last week. He stated that Malcolm Burgess, who is an elected official to sit on our health board, accused Central Bucks School District, my school district, of misleading the public about contact tracing. Now, you see, these articles would not be happening if you let our health director speak to our school districts. You ripped him away from school guidance on August 23rd and left schools in total chaos. And we were left to fix it ourselves because you can't silence us. I am calling for you five up here to stop this. I don't want any more negative articles written about my school district. We are following Dr. Damsker's August 15th guidance to treat COVID like a flu, and we're doing great. We are doing wonderful. Our kids are normal. We're not forcing masks. We're not keeping healthy kids home. Other districts should follow.
Patricia Dobler?
Thank you. Patricia Dobler. I'd like to ask the commissioners to please make these meetings more accessible to the working families that you serve and that got you elected. 10:30 on a Wednesday morning is not ideal for most families, and believe me, most families have a lot they would like to be here to talk to you about. We hear from them daily. I'm grateful I own my own business and can be here, and so many reach out thanking us for being a voice for them while they have to work. But to better serve the county, an evening meeting would be so much better suited. Second, I know many people in this county would like clarification of why the county buildings are enforcing mandatory masking at these public meetings when there is no state or county mandate. I mean, the PA Supreme Court just found that masking children in schools was unconstitutional. But where does your power and the library's power come from to enforce this? Do you know how many children have yet to return to their beloved libraries? These buildings serve the public. They are not private businesses. Many school districts have been sued over illegal masking. I really hope the county isn't opening themselves up to litigation because of more illegal masking enforcement.
Okay, we'll go to, thank you for the people who are making comments. Just to address a few of them. To begin with, the Bucks County Board of Commissioners has quite a lot of power. We do not control the free media. We don't control what reporters write. And so requests for us to make sure the media doesn't write stories isn't really something we have the ability to do. Question about the budget. Quite frankly, Mr. Warren, I find a little disingenuous. You were a county commissioner for a long time. You know that budgets start getting made in August, if not July. The budgets that you're referring to being cut were changed. At the time those budgets were made, there were 8 Democratic elected row officers and only 1 Republican. The budgets were largely done by the time the election came around. And so the idea that they were cut because people were a certain party really doesn't fly, and I think you know that. In terms of the buildings and the masking, that was something that the administration worked on with the judges. There was concern in both buildings, the Justice Center and this one, about trying to maintain the safety of our staff as well as people who might visit either building or any of the buildings we have. I know Mr. Hogan talked about trying to get back to normal. I can assure you there are about 640,000 people in Bucks County who want to get back to normal, including the 3 commissioners. I would argue that if we had a higher vaccination rate in this county, we'd be able to get back to normal even sooner. So any efforts to help move that along, we'd be more than welcome them. Let's see. Okay. Commissioner comments. Commissioner Marseglia.
So I guess the first thing I wanted to say is I wanted to thank the staff and my colleagues up here and everyone. I had my knee replaced about 10 days ago, and everybody has been very supportive and given me the time to be able to heal and to work on that. So thank you. It's good to be back, but thanks for carrying everything. At the last commissioners meeting, I spoke about, it was January 5th, and I spoke about how on January 6th, while most people went to Washington for a peaceful protest, there were a few who were very enraged and got very upset and acted out. And I talked about how lying leads to that, and it leads to the rage. So I said I was going to call out anything that wasn't true. So I want to first call out something that was true. And I will apologize that, yes, I did not realize that our law department missed an email in a right-to-know information. And so Ms. Walker was able to contact a private citizen. Now, the email that went was cruel and vicious, but it was a private citizen whose email was out there. You are not supposed to do that, but you are right. I'm sorry that you got it because it was in the right-to-know information. The second thing I wanted to say, and I talk about suicide because my daughter died by suicide, and it's an important issue to me. But people are throwing around a lot about suicide with kids in school and the pandemic. And I just want to be clear that in Bucks County in 2019, it was very sad that we lost 5 children to suicide. In 2020, we were blessed to lose none. This year, or 2021, unfortunately, we lost 3. So suicide is one of those things. The pandemic has had no impact on it that way, but it doesn't mean that we don't have mental health issues in the community. I just needed to be clear on what the truth is about things. So I also wanted to just share some information. As a clinical social worker, I get information from my alma mater, the University of Pennsylvania, all the time. I read it and I learn a lot from it. But the other day I saw an article in the Inquirer that was based on that research, and I wanted to share it because it talks about whether it's local or Washington, where conspiracy theories come from. When people start to put things together that shouldn't be put together, and then they get upset, they get the public upset. And what we are finding is that research, generally, conspiracy theories follow a major event. If you look in history, there's conspiracy theories after Princess Di died. There were some after the moon landing. There were some when Abraham Lincoln died, when John Kennedy was shot. We could go back to the Salem witch trials. So conspiracies have always been here, and they're really about people, especially when something upsetting has happened, they need information. They feel like things are out of control. Sometimes it's frightening, and they just need information. That was really hard for people during this pandemic because the information literally changed every hour, every day. So it was difficult to get that information. So when people finally get that information, they cling on to it. And sometimes it's not true. But another thing happens, and they have shown in MRIs that when we hear or read something salacious, parts of our brain light up and we are intrigued by it and we hold on to it more. So sometimes conspiracies can come because the information, while wrong, is also salacious, so that it kind of gets locked into the brain. But probably the most important thing is that when people are in that search for information, they sometimes there's dots out there of information, and they start connecting the dots even though they shouldn't be connected. It's like an illusion. But they start to believe it, and they often will share it with other people. And that has happened a lot within the past year or two, and now we hear it locally. So I just thought it was important to try to explain some of that. You know, years ago, before the internet, we relied on newspaper editors to decide for us and tell us what was real. Newspaper editors didn't let newspapers publish untruths. And I shout out to Levittown Now, the Bucks County Courier-Times and Intelligencer, and the Philadelphia Inquirer, because they still do that. You don't hear about those conspiracy theories as true in those newspapers because they're not. But unfortunately, there is the internet. And the internet, as we know, is endless information, and social media is endless information. And there is just no way right now to be able to stop that. So that drives those conspiracy theories. So we are in a difficult place. This is a time when we should be all held together, but because of this information that is inaccurate, people are raw, and they're upset, and they say things often that aren't true, but unfortunately they started to believe it. In the future, I'd like to talk a little bit more about how to get people away from the conspiracy theories, but the truth is, so far the research is showing it's very difficult. And that when you try to peel somebody away from their conspiracy theories, a lot of times they will then involve you in it and blame you as being part of it. But that's an important thing to understand too. So in the meantime, the last thing I wanted to say was, just if you're not sure if it's true, go to a reliable source. If it sounds like it's not true, it probably isn't true. I ask this county to stay strong, stay with the truth, keep the faith. And as I said in 2021, this is 2022, and we are moving on, we are moving forward, and we are rebuilding Bucks County. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner DiGirolamo.
I'm going to try to talk a little bit about this pandemic, and I apologize. I might fumble this a little bit, but I'm going to try to speak from my heart about what has happened these past 2 years. And it's almost been 2 years. I think it was January, maybe February, when we first started having to deal with this. And from myself, it has been excruciating. It has been so difficult. We had a pandemic that has killed in our country. I mean, I don't know what it's up to. They're talking about soon it could be 1 million or more people. I don't think there's anybody in this room that doesn't know somebody who has gotten very, very sick, been in the hospital. Unfortunately, and maybe tragically, you know somebody who's lost a family member, maybe even somebody in here, a family member, has passed away. And the three of us up here, the three commissioners, have worked together to try to manage and handle what responsibilities we have as a county as best as we could. The three of us haven't agreed all the time. We've kind of taken our disagreements behind closed doors and talked things out. And on a number of occasions, we've compromised. I remember very vividly when the issues of businesses being closed in the state of Pennsylvania by Governor Wolf and the governor's mandate, that the three of us fought very hard to open up Bucks County for our businesses to start opening again. You remember that green, yellow, red designation in the southeast just seemed like forever in the red, where other counties were moving out into the yellow and green. And one phone call with the Secretary of Health, who is now in Washington, and we were, the three of us, forcefully pushing back against the administration, saying that Bucks County is ready to open up. And there was a phone call with a number of people on, and I was actually yelling into the phone that we're not going to stand for this anymore, that you need to allow us to open up. It's really been difficult. I mean, some of these decisions seemed like they were life and death. And it's been hard, really hard for me. It really has. Maybe we haven't made the right decisions all the time, but I think every decision we made during the past 2 years has not been a political decision. I think the decisions have been made with the best interests of the people who live in Bucks County in mind. And I hear, you've been at every meeting and I hear what you're saying. You have every right to be here. Every right. You have every right to express your opinion. And we should, the three of us up here, listen to what you have to say and take that into consideration when we're making decisions. And I know the schools, not only here in Bucks County, but across the state, across the country, I mean, these are issues that are not unique to Bucks County. Myself, from the very beginning, I have always thought that the school districts in Bucks County elect a school board. And it should be the school districts and the school board, in conjunction with the superintendent and the administration, who should be the ones making decision on what's best for their school district. Now, I know earlier in the year, we couldn't do that because the governor had a mandate that required masking and some other things, I think. Well, that's gone now. So right now in Bucks County, we have the individual school districts that are making decisions on health and safety for their school district. And I really think that's the way it should be. And I've watched Dr. Damsker through this whole thing. And he has put himself many times in just an awful position and has gotten just terrible criticism, not only directed against him, but against his family. And for part of this, maybe the first year or so, or year and a few months, he was going to school board meetings, he was going here, he was going there. He was literally up at night, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, returning emails to different people, the public, school districts, businesses. And he was coming into work, and I saw him one time where he was almost falling asleep. He was so tired, he said he had been up all night. And the emails and the criticism against his family, and I'm not picking on one side or the other, it came from both sides. I remember a time in the middle of this disagreement with the school districts, one day I got 300 emails, and I had Marcy in my office just kind of put them together and see, there were almost exactly 150 in favor of masking in schools and 150 in favor of mask optional in schools in one day, 300 emails. And that's what I got. So again, this has been extremely hard for me, and I think for my two colleagues. From the bottom of my heart, this has not been political. We've tried to do the very best we can for the health, the safety, and the welfare of the residents of Bucks County. We're not out of this yet. I mean, I think we're in for a little bit longer with this. I mean, if you listen to Dr. Fauci or not, I mean, talking about there could be another month or two of maybe a rise in cases. I hope not. I hope we get over it a lot quicker than that. But you have my promise that we're going to do the best we can. And again, we might not always be right. I worked in Harrisburg for 25 years, and I've worked on issues, and I've always used to stand up in the House and say, compromise is not a bad word. That when you have disagreements on issues that are important, that you should be able to work together, both sides, Democrat and Republican, and try to find solutions and a compromise that'll work for everybody. Now, I realize this pandemic and this COVID is a lot different because it's dealing with the health and safety of our residents. So this is not an issue like a budget or something like that. This is a much bigger issue. We're trying to do the best we can. I promise you that. And we're always, what else I will promise you is that we will have the safety and the welfare and the health of the citizens of Bucks County in our mind when we're making decisions about how to manage this pandemic, and not only on the pandemic, but other issues that we have responsibility for here in Bucks County. So, I mean, I wish we could try to work together. That's what I always preach. Working together is always a lot better, and being respectful in the debate is always the right thing to do. I believe that. So, moving forward, let's try to work together. I think that's the important part of it. Let's work together on these issues, and I'll take all the criticism in the world. I will listen. I always believed that being a good elected official is you have to be a better listener than you are a talker. And I'll accept criticism, and if I'm wrong, I'll admit it, and I'll work on changing whatever it is we need to change. Let's work together. I mean, in a respectful way. I think we can do it. Josh, I really think we can do it. And we might not always agree, but we can agree to disagree. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's unknowingly from Commissioner Giraldo, a pretty good segue into what I was going to talk about, which is really looking and going against Commissioner Marseglia, looking backward for just a little bit at 2021, just for a little bit before we move forward. As Commissioner DiGirolamo said, we have worked very well together, the three of us. It was something I remember hearing right after I was elected. About people that knew Commissioner DiGirolamo back then at that point, State Representative DiGirolamo said, it knew me. You guys are going to work very well together. Everything's going to be very go well. It's interesting, the phone call, which happened actually in a room right across the hallway here, that you're referencing. I do remember, and it's one of not shouldn't have a lot of favorite stories when it comes to COVID, but it's one of my more favorite stories because the people who know the three commissioners know that there's one of us who has a little bit more of a temper than the other two. When I communicate about that phone call, and I tell people, it was, Commissioner Marseglia was actually the calm one in the room because of how angry, as the only time I'd seen Commissioner DiGirolamo angry, and I was actually pretty angry as well. Interestingly, the person we yelled the most at on that phone call was a woman who I'd never heard of, and who now is, well, I don't know if she's employed or not, but her name was Allison Beam. So it was good to, but it was a good sign of that bipartisanship. We've worked together on a lot of things, and I just want to talk about some of the things we've done as commissioners. And again, these are things we've done unanimously, bipartisan in nature, for the benefit of the people of this county. Over the past year, in 2021, we created a one-stop shop for county residents seeking any human services-related needs. The Bucks County Hub, which you can get to through our website, is essentially for people who are having problems. They don't know where to go. They don't know which county agency. They don't have the time to figure out navigating through our website as to which agency best addresses their issues, or maybe they've got multiple issues. And the Hub is something that's designed to allow them to just make a one call and then they get direction. We successfully partnered with neighboring counties and won a lawsuit to protect the Delaware River Basin from fracking. Entering into 2022 with a budget that did not raise taxes, second year in a row. We partnered with Bensalem, Falls Township, Middletown Townships to create a first responders program that allows licensed social workers to help respond to calls when requested by police officers. We purchased the first 2 electric vehicles for the county, specifically used in Department of Corrections, saving in fuel costs and also vehicles that will last longer. We prevented 2,284 evictions in Bucks County. It's 2,284 people or families who were allowed to stay in their home during 2021 and weren't on the streets. We adopted Sierra Club's Ready for 100 resolution, which is putting us in the forefront of counties in Pennsylvania committed to cutting back on our carbon footprint. We opened up bridges, rebuilt bridges, Creek Road in Warwick, Mill Road in Buckingham, Cartersville and Solbury, Byers Road in Tinicum. And in the next 3 to 4 years, we'll have reduced the number of deficient bridges to 8 instead of 54, which it was just 7 years ago. And special thanks to General Services, Kevin Spencer, for working on that and his staff. We work with community leaders in Marsville on the Love is the Answer mural in Marsville Borough, and working currently, I think, with Falls Township on another one. Preserve 6 farms with a combined acreage of 360 acres in Springfield, Milford, Bedminster, and Durham. Preserve Lake Galena in perpetuity and generate additional revenue for the county. Expanded our fresh vegetables program for seniors with the help of Snipes Farm and added 3 additional senior centers. Provided PPE for early childhood education daycare facilities. Administered 195,006 COVID-19 vaccinations across the county. Successfully worked with neighboring counties and the federal government to bring in direct financial assistance to flood and hurricane victims. Conducted a successful behind the walls job fair inside the jail. Implemented a telework policy for county employees. We're looking forward to a lot of goals moving, into 2022. We're happy about the things we've done in the last 2 years working together, and thank my 2 colleagues here. Thank our staff and all the staff that work here. One's in the room for the rows who've been here and the things they've done in their offices, for the rows who are new, and the things I know that you'll be working on to, improve services for the residents of the county. We're anxious to work with you and excited. And I want to special thanks, and I'll make this, a special thanks really to the professionalism and constant, we're constantly amazed at the level of effort, but especially the professionalism of our COO, Marge McKevitt, especially. So thank you. All right. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.